I thought Amy could win this, but Ellen, our girl, she's winning this.
That's who you're going with?
Yeah, I'm going with Ellen.
Let's go. I'll ride with you. All right, welcome back to the Next Aid Station podcast. I am Jake Kilgore, accompanied with my dog, Mick Garrison, on this lovely Tuesday morning in the middle of May. We want to start this podcast off today. First of all, we got to recognize our sponsors, DC Peaks and Rockstar, coming through in the clutch for the Next Aid Station podcast. I think we have to start off this morning talking about and recapping real quick the Cocodona 250. I know we had a whole preview and who we thought was going to win and who all this stuff. I was amazed and, as predicted, glued to my TV for 5 days last week.
Did you get any sleep during this event?
I slept at least 5 nights more than the runners.
You looked like they did.
That is very rude.
That's no.
Because I know what they look
No,
like.
I'm saying that's how much you watched.
I did, dude.
Dude, I caught myself waking up at 3 a.m, just rolling over, hit refresh, see what's up. I'm like, okay, Jeff Browning.
Dude, I was in awe the entire time. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. First of all, from a live stream perspective, amazing.
Yeah.
Like the coverage was just so awesome. And then I'm watching and I'm at work and I turn on the TV in my office and I'm half paying attention to the Zoom calls I'm on all week. And I'm like, I'm listening and then I'm just looking up at the TV and I'm like,
you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, he really liked that idea.
Refresh on my monitor. And then I'm looking at the screen and then I'm on a Google Meet right now.
So what are the things that stood out to you?
Ooh. If I had like a few takeaways, my mind, because I've been on the fence for several weeks now about if I'm going to run my first 200. So my mind immediately while I was watching, it was all strategy. I'm like, that's interesting. That their crew has a yoga mat and they're laying the runner down on his stomach and they're rolling him out on his back and on his hamstrings. I'm like, noted. And then I'm looking at their gear and I'm like, gloves with the trekking poles that clip in to your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, noted. And I'm looking at their white Gilligan's hat. And then at night, they're wearing like a super lightweight, like down jacket. And I'm like, noted. I'm noting all this stuff as a runner.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I was watching it as from a fan perspective. I couldn't believe how fast those leaders were going. Like, I can't believe anyone could just finish that race. So there's that. But the speed to which like Browning and String Bean Joe and Harry and these guys were going, I'm like, this is crazy.
I was a great takeaway also as from a racing perspective was like, this is a race. Like those top 5 are legitimately racing. They're not just trying to finish. They're like, their strategy going into these aid stations, that was pretty amazing, dude. I was in awe the whole time.
Yeah. And speaking of the coverage, the one of the biggest moments, I mean, we'll get to the almost broken jaw, but when they were recording Jeff Browning climbing, I can't remember the name of that climb.
Eldon.
That's crazy where you're at in the race and how steep it is. And he's being hunted and he knows it.
Bro, mile 240 and you got to climb up just over 9,000 feet. I think it's like 9,200, 9,300 feet.
And he's been leading it for like 150 miles at this point or something. And I'm watching and it's like, I go into your office. I'm like, bro, he's like 3 miles behind Jeff, Harry. And then I'm like, bro, he's 2 miles behind. What's happening?
Yeah. I'm like, it's okay. I was like, it's okay, dude. He's climbing the steepest climb in the whole race right now. I'm like, it's fine. He's going to close the gap. And then he closed the gap. And then if you heard Jeff talk post race, it was just, he was sitting on a log.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I'll never forget that log ever.
Yeah.
And
he
passed him. It was wild.
He gave him a hug. They had a moment. And then, okay, I was watching it and I didn't know about that sitting on the log and how, like, because they were in the woods and they didn't have cameras on them.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know how he caught him and how that went. And so you're just waiting to see who comes out of the trees. And the way that Harry was running, I'm like, oh, he knows that Jeff Browning is coming for him. And he's just got to be going, right? But that's not what happened at all.
Nope.
And he still was cruising like that. I mean, he was moving.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think our watch list was dead on for the dudes. I mean, we had those top 7 guys. That was 6 out of 7 were in the top.
Yeah.
And that was so amazing stories that came out of that. I would say was Arlen Glick's 200 performance was unreal. Browning leading for 160 and not winning. The 12th place dude, the 17-year-old kid that took 12th. Holy crap, dude. I guess he's like a super experienced like through hiker. Arizona Trail and some other like big through hikes. And then I have not had a chance to follow up with Mike McKnight. I didn't know kind of if he just fell back at a certain point with maybe 50 or 80 miles to go and was just kind of like, I don't have it today. Well, just kind of hung out. I don't know.
I don't know if that was it because
or he was just outperformed by 15 other guys and gals.
He I think he would say he had some issues, but if you were watching his time, he wasn't really that far off. He was, if it was any other year, he's doing fine. But this field, it makes it look like he's having such a rough time when the record's being broken by 9-10 hours.
9 hours.
Over
so
that.
You break the record
like
by 9 hours and don't win.
Yeah, that's Jeff. Yeah. I know. That's rough. A couple things that stand out for me. There were 2 72-year-olds that finished this race.
There were 2 in it. Or 3 in it. I think I
heard of 2 that finished.
And I think there were only 2 in
it. One of them was like, he's now the oldest to ever finish by 15 days or something. I'm like, no.
15 days?
Or something. I'm like, no, it's a tie. That's a tie. And when you talked about the 17-year-old kid, it made me think of them. I'm like, look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this range.
Yeah, there he is. Brody Chisholm. Took 12th. Bro, he did it in 75 hours and 49 minutes. A 17-year-old kid.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we got a 17-year-old kid going 12th and a couple 72-year-old dudes finishing.
Is it 72 or is it 73?
72 or 73. I'll look it up.
Okay.
But what does that tell you about the sport, or at least that distance?
Well, I mean, it has always felt to me like you can still be really good at ultra running, older you get. You look at somebody like Jason Schlarb. I think he's our age. Or maybe even a couple of years older.
Yeah, he's like 48.
Yeah. And that dude smokes it.
Yep.
Like even coming off of a pretty big injury. Smokes it. So I'm like, there's hope. I mean, not for me. I'm not going to win a race, but for people for longevity to be able to keep doing this. Yeah, it's not like basketball.
No. I don't think we know really what our bodies can do at the ultra distance. We have no idea. This sport is so young, and the technology and science, like we're just barely figuring that out. This dude was 73 years old, Terry Gardner.
73, okay.
117 hours.
Yeah, dude.
That's like 5 days, 6 days. That's a I don't even know the math. Who cares about the math? That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a really long time.
Okay, here's something else that stood out. People that are doing that, and you talked about your strategy, they're sleeping. They're figuring something out. I'm pretty sure I heard that Jeff Browning took 2 20-minute naps. Is that accurate?
I don't know. I have not seen a full like race report from any of the top 5, top 10 as far as how much they slept.
I'm like, yeah. He couldn't breathe. He completely lost his voice.
I mean, that's the only way you're I mean, between weather being the biggest factor to breaking a course record in a race like this in northern Arizona. I would say weather and heat is number 1, and number 2 would be you just don't sleep. How else are you gonna just crush a course by 9 hours? You go 60 hours on a race that last year was 69? So, on the men's side, there were so many cool stories. Versteeg was awesome to watch. I
Yeah.
loved watching him. Um, Finn Melanson, Mr. Podcaster,
Did
run
good.
single track. Bro, he took 7th.
He did good.
He destroyed it. He absolutely crushed. Um, so there were a ton of good stories. McKnight came out at 79 hours. So he was 10 hours over his time last year, which
Yeah, I think I heard that he did have some issues. Killian Korth again with the breathing.
yeah, I don't
There
know that
might
he'll go back to
there
that
might be
event.
some allergy issues in a region there.
Jerome in
Yeah.
Jerome, yeah. So he thinks that. So we'll see. But yeah, on the women's side,
That was uh, that was incredible. Recap that for us.
the women's side. So now this is why we didn't pick Mika Thews. She's not on Ultra sign up even right now as results. So we didn't predict her because we didn't know she was even in it.
Yeah, that was like Mike McKnight.
Yeah.
I
So
found out,
Mika
yeah.
wasn't even in on Ultra sign up. She still isn't on there now. She's leading the race by
Oh,
a day.
crushing the course record.
She's top 10.
She didn't want to be filmed, so I can't see really what's going on. You can't see if she's hurting,
Yeah.
tired, whatever. And you just watch her time and you're like, oh my gosh.
During the live broadcast, they
killing
said
it.
that she and her crew told Aravipa, like, we don't want any cameras on her. Like, she just wants to race and enjoy the days. Like, she didn't want cameras. So they're talking about her. They know what place she's in because she's got a live tracker on her. But she was leading for 200 miles or something.
By a lot.
By a lot. She was leading by, I think she was up by like 6 or 8 hours or 10 hours on like the next female. And then, so we saw this post race story that she tells where she basically, she had a fractured elbow or arm from like 3 weeks earlier. So somewhere around mile 240. Can't remember if it was before or after Eldon. I think it was
It was
before.
230. I think
Right,
she had about
right before Eldon.
I think she had 16 miles left. 234.
Okay, so she was right before Eldon. She falls, jams up her elbow or arm, just in tons of pain. She said she picked up a bunch of adrenaline, starts running hard, and the pain kind of was like non-existent because of the adrenaline. And then the pain came back. She hits another rock, trips and falls. Instead of catching herself with her arm, she catches herself with her face on the ground, and her mouth is bleeding, and she thinks she broke her jaw. She gets into the aid station and essentially is like, I got to go get checked out. Like, I'm bleeding everywhere. So they take her to the hospital or they check her out. She ends up going to a hotel room, showering, eating, and sleeping for like 8 or 9 hours, which is still within the course rules because all you have at Cocodona, you can go sleep at a hotel if you want, or you can sleep in the dirt or sleep in your car. She decides to go to a hotel room.
As long as you check out from an aid station,
Yeah,
and go back to that same.
and go back to that same. So she checks out, showers, sleeps, eats, and is like, well, I mean, all my friends and my crew, they're all just working on the course. I got nothing to do. I'll just go finish the last 16 miles. Checks back in,
That is incredible.
And takes third, I think.
Broken arm, busted up. It wasn't a broken jaw, luckily.
Right.
And then, did you see the videos of her running?
I think she set the course record for that section.
She was hauling ass on the trail, on the road. I mean, props to her.
I was in awe. That chick is fast.
Yeah,
and
she's gonna go. She's gonna
dude.
go back and get that win.
Oh my gosh, she's resilient. Well, we talked a lot about Ashley Polson. She ends up taking 9th, I believe, because Mika's not on here, so it says 8th, but I think she was top 10. So still a great finish for Ashley. According to her crew and her, she was fighting like stomach issues and a bug like leading into the race. She was just sick.
Right.
So she entered the race not 100%. Still fought through. Demonstrates amazing grit and just freaking finishing.
She got it done.
Oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
91 hours. But Rachel Entrekin wins the female race at 73 hours and places just outside the overall top 10, takes 11th. So, I mean, we were just talking about that before this. Runners in our sport coming out of nowhere. Now, people that know her, like, no, she didn't come out of nowhere. She's amazing. But I'm like, I don't know who that is. And she just won it. Very, very impressive. We had Carrie Henderson on our podium. She took 4th. So that was the closest we got on the female side on as far as our predictions. But anyway, that race had, you go for 5 or 6 days, you're going to have at least 10 really cool stories to come out of there.
So many stories. Yeah. Very cool. Like you said, great coverage. I don't love the finish.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't, if I was the race director, I'd be like, I'm not having them cross busy roads and wait for cars while they're racing.
And then you go through an alleyway.
Like, that's where you got to
take a right through an alleyway.
I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I mean, everything else seems to be amazing. But that one particular thing, I was like,
Change that up a little.
I love it.
Okay. We will write them a review. 5-star review them, and then we'll give them a little feedback.
They're like, well, you're never going to run it, so you don't have to worry about it.
You're like, really, guy who's on his couch, you got feedback for me? Sounds good. All right. So I feel like we've been talking about Cocodona for 2 weeks, so it's time to move on.
Mm-hmm.
The next kind of big-ish race, at least locally to Utah, is the Bryce Canyon 100. It is a UTMB index event. It is also a Western States 100 qualifying event. So pretty big race around here as far as
that's exciting.
You got to get your stones, your UTMB stones, and those trying to qualify for their lottery ticket for Western. Bryce Canyon. Mick, tell us about that race.
Well, it's normally got 14,000 feet of climbing in southern Utah, and this year is not going to be that. It's different this year. So apparently there was some issues with the weather, which caused them to change the route. It's going to end up being 2 50-mile loops. And it overall will take off about 1,000 feet of climbing. And in fact, it's just under 100, the website says.
So when I saw the course, it was a big, like a 50K loop and then 100K out and back.
Yeah.
Is that not it?
No, now it's 2 50-mile loops. And they said something happened to where it was for runner safety. So I don't know if that was like there's snow and they're going to slide down something, or there was damage. I don't know why they made that call. So that's going to speed things up. I don't know what the weather looks like, but
I mean, I know it's 80 degrees up here in northern Utah. So I think it's going to be very hot down there.
Well, I watched some video. There's a lot of sections that are not covered in shade.
Yeah,
they do have some. They got trees, but they also have lots that is not.
This is the vacation races, right? So
Yeah.
this is right up the alley of Moab, what I did in Zion's a month ago, and Bryce Canyon. They're all similar terrain, similar temperatures, no trees, desert, tough.
Yeah, very tough.
Okay. So breaking down the runners, we got to talk about run sign up
Yeah.
and ultra sign up.
I'm
So
I'm ultra sign up guy.
you won't sign up for a race that's not on ultra sign up.
It drives me nuts. Look, can I just be real? Why does it matter? Well, it matters because we want all of our resume in one spot. Not just for me. I want to see that with other runners. I want to see everything they've done.
I want just an ultra database
Yeah.
that consolidates all the running. Now, why would a race director choose not to put their event on ultra sign up?
It seems to me like it must be cheaper, like they get more money or something.
Yeah. So like it seems like the UTMB courses, a lot of them are not on ultra sign up. Like
It's
they have
either
their
that,
own website.
yeah, okay, yeah. Either that or they have their own. But to me, I'm like, no. Like that's where you sign up for races.
So we want ultra sign up to have a monopoly.
Yep.
Like just everyone's got to go on there, pay the registration fees, and let's run it. But if your event is, Vacation Races is really big. They're global. They got races all over the world.
Yeah, they do.
UTMB, huge. They don't need ultra sign up.
I want them to.
You want them to need it?
I want them to use it. I want everyone to. I just want a directory that just shows it all the stats, all the races.
So we're looking up, we go to run sign up. We're like, hey, who's in the race? Okay, we find all the runners. Then we're like, okay, we want to click on their name and be like, what did that dude do last year? Or what else has he signed up for?
Yeah. I want to see.
Nothing.
I like the rankings. It makes it fun to when you're predicting who's going to win to check it out, and you're like, this dude's got a 45% rank on ultra sign up. He's not winning it.
And then he
No.
comes out of nowhere and
Usually no. So I like to go to ultra sign up and check those things out. And then you don't have it for this race. And I'm like,
So since it doesn't give us the easy resume access that ultra sign up does, we both used a different strategy.
Yeah.
To determine who we're going to put on our watch list. So I got the men's, you got the women's, but I was like, okay, I'm going to do my own thing. And I copied and pasted, put them all into Excel, sorted it by state. And I'm like, I'm starting with Colorado and then I'm going to Utah and Arizona. Outside of that, I don't know who you are.
Cool.
I don't know if you're in California or Vermont or Arkansas. I don't like your chances in Southern Utah. So I'm like Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and I went through every runner in those 3 states.
That's cool. You're like, you went elevation.
Yeah, I was like, and terrain and heat. And I'm like, odds are if you are a elite or a top fast runner in those 3 states, 50% chance I probably have seen your name before.
Yeah, it's definitely the elevation. It's not the heat, because you weren't picking Nevada and Arizona and New Mexico.
No, Nevada and New Mexico, they didn't make my cut.
Yeah, that's unique. I like that.
So I did that, and then if I recognized their name or if I saw what city they were from, I went over to my other tab, ultra sign up, punched in their name, and I was like, yes, no, yes, no.
I like it.
What did you do?
So I copied all of the names on run sign up, all the entrants, and I put them into Chat GPT and said, go search the internet, including ultrasignup.com, and tell me who the top 5 males and the top 5 females are going to be of this race. Enter. Let's see what you got.
Mick GPT.
And it gave me some names. Do you want that list?
Who does Mick GPT have on his watch list?
Well, that's not who I didn't roll with that.
Oh, that was like that's how you started the search.
I mean, some of the names I was like, I did a little checking to make sure, and I'm like,
because some of them were bunk. Chat GPT came back and you're like, no.
They're like, this dude has a 90 rank on ultra sign up, and then you go and look, and he's like 62. I'm like, no. I'm all like just talking crap to ChatGPT.
Did you guys get into it?
I did. I'm like, sounds like you're just making shit up.
Did you said that?
Yes. I'm like, don't waste my time, dude. If you don't know what it is,
dude.
And I did. I called him. I like went at him, and every time it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I'm like, well, I don't want to hear that.
Like, I already know I'm right.
Eight times in a row.
I'm sorry, you're right. You're right. I'm wrong. Let me try that again.
Okay. You want the women's?
Sure.
Or do you want...
Give me men's and women's.
Okay, here's ChatGPT's picks, and then we'll do our picks.
Okay.
All right, ChatGPT, male winners, 1 through 5, okay?
Okay.
All right. Sean Burke.
My guy.
To win it all. With some nudging from me.
Okay.
That was me arguing with
the
ChatGPT.
Okay.
Okay. Anthony Temprano. See, it says that he's a 93.64 rank on Ultra Sign Up. He's not.
Oh.
Okay. Yongki Shin. I don't know who that is.
I looked him up.
He's third. He is podium. He's on the podium.
According to ChatGPT.
What if they're like Vegas, like the odds makers? They're just wizards. Like I'm on to something now.
I think ChatGPT sets all the lines now in Vegas. So
Corey Sylvester, 4th, and David Rutkowski, top 5, number 5.
So of the 5 ChatGPT gave you, do you like any of them?
Yeah, definitely.
When I was scanning it and I sorted it, Colorado first, boom, the first name that came up. I'm like, Sean Burke. I'm like, that dude's winning it. And you just started laughing. You're like, that's funny, dude. I'm like, I go, you don't know who that is? You're like, no, how would I know who that is? Well, Sean Burke, I ran with Sean for like 30 miles in the Mogollon 100 last August. And he took second at Mogollon. He took second to Pete Mortimer. And that dude is amazing runner. So I'm like, yep, Sean's on my podium.
The climbing in Mogollon. Yeah, he's going to be fast. He's going to be fast in this one.
Who else do you like on that list?
I was checking out David Rakowski. He seems to be pretty good, dude.
I also liked him. So he's a great guy for our watch list. Sean Burke, David Rakowski.
Someone not on the list, you got to have a third.
Somehow ChatGPT did not pick John Dragon.
The Dragon.
John Dragon, my nuts on your chin.
Oh my God. This is not for kids.
I think John Dragonma is. I don't know enough runners in this race to not say John Dragon and Sean Burke. I hate to say it's a 2-man race because that's just ignorance because I don't know all the runners. But those are the 2 I'm watching. I am watching John Dragon, Sean Burke, but I think David Rakowski is going to be top 10 for sure.
Well, there's your podium. Just roll with it.
Yeah, I'm rolling with those 3.
Okay. It's official. DC Peaks picks. They're in.
They're in. All right. The next aid station is going to pick John Dragon, Sean Burke, and David Rakowski. That's our men's podium for the Bryce Canyon 100.
All right. Now, ChatGPT for female. First place, Tracy Thelen.
Sure.
Maria Simone. Jessica Schiller. Sydney Sparks. And let's see. Amy, I don't know how to say that last name. Rashetsky.
Give it again. Just go and Amy
Rashetsky. Okay. And 5th, Amy Rashetsky.
Sounds good to me. I don't know any of these runners.
I know some stuff about them.
Okay.
I am happy to see that ChatGPT picked Amy. There's 3 on my watch list that we can break down. So we have Amy, who has done 125 races. Dude,
Whoa.
check this out. 80 podiums. Yeah.
And ChatGPT picked her?
5th.
Great. We're going to pick her to win.
Yeah. Penati 100, a race like in Alabama. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Okay. Well, it's got 14,000 feet of climbing, which is very similar to this race. She did it in 26 hours and 40 minutes. I think the women 25-26 hour wins it. 25 hours.
Yeah. Fair.
And I think that race was so similar, and now it's 1,000 feet less climbing. I'm like, she could do that. I'm like, I think Amy could win this. I have Tracy Thelen. She's done 53 races, 21 podiums. So if she's like these women, they're competing.
Experience, dude. Holy cow.
A lot of races, a lot of experience, a lot of podiums. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to bet against you. I'm rolling with you. Let's do it again. Okay. Ellen Cheshire.
The cat.
27 races, 5 podiums, and inside of that one, she has a really good resume. Ellen could win this. Let me grab my notes here. She's done a 28-hour bear. That's decent, right?
Yep.
Because if she's doing a 28-hour bear with 20,000 feet of climbing, what's she going to do? Could she get down to that 25 hours?
A couple hours off, I would say at least, yeah.
Okay, so 26, 20. So I'm like, well, then she's in this. She did a 22-hour Buffalo Antelope Island 100. 22 hours of moving. So she can climb and she can handle the flat. So that's interesting. She has a sub 20 Kachina Mosa. She has an 11:52 squaw peak.
That's a good time, dude.
None of that matters compared to what I'm about to say. Last year, in 11 hours and 31 minutes, she completed DC Peaks 50.
I knew I recognized that name.
Ellen.
Yes.
She could win this.
What place did she take at
Ninth.
DC Peaks?
9th.
Overall.
Yeah. No, women's.
Okay.
Which that would be like a pretty good field because her resume is good.
Okay.
And she took 9th.
In our race.
Yeah. So I thought Amy could win this. She could. But Ellen, our girl, she's winning this.
That's who you're going with?
Yeah, I'm going with Ellen.
Let's go. I'll ride with you. Okay. Our picks are in.
Picks are in.
Thank you for joining us this morning. This has been a fantastic recap of the Cocodona 250 and a pre-race preview of the Bryce Canyon 100. Have a nice day. Join us again. This has been the Next Aid Station Podcast.